Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this thrilling, chilling, and highly fulfilling. That was highly fulfilling.
Sorry.
Episode of the BURKE Brigade. I'm Matthew Burke.
And I'm Jennifer Burke.
And we are the BURKE Brigade, brought to you by the Liberty Daily.
Your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Go to thelibertydaily.com, your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report. You will not be sorry. Today is Thursday, October 19th, and it's exactly 30 years away from Black Monday, which was October 19th, 1987. Mm-hmm. I was beginning my 24-year-long career. I got out of the business in 2012. As a financial advisor, I had literally just received my securities license a couple weeks earlier. I went into the office one day and the market dropped 22.8%.
Wow.
In one day.
Wow.
It was a complete meltdown. And I remember driving home from work that day. This was on the east side Seattle area, like Bellevue, Redmond, driving home. And it was like no one was on the freeway. It was like there was the rapture or something. And I thought to myself, what had I gotten myself into? So the market dropped 500 points. 500 points now would be a significant drop. But when the Dow was only at 2,200 and something,
whoa,
and dropped to like 1,700 and something, I think it was 1,738 if I remember correctly. It was a massive, massive deal. And of course, Ronald Reagan was president, and the government did pretty much nothing. And within a year, it had fully recovered.
You mean the government didn't deem themselves to be the saviors?
Nope.
The government didn't think they needed to play God with the economy?
Nope.
Imagine that.
Yep, totally recovered. So there was a major lesson. You won't hear that very often. Now, of course, when you have a major significant drop like that, the Federal Reserve opens up the printing presses, starts printing money, trying to make things get better, and invariably it just creates more bubbles and other
right.
places.
And then as George W. Bush said in 2009,
I think.
Eight. End of
Correct.
2008.
Eight.
I'm abandoning my free market principles to save the free market.
It's not the way it works.
How about you abandon the free market to save it? How about that? How about you just leave your metal and grubby little hands alone?
Right. Okay. So happy anniversary, Black Monday, and of course we know now the stock market isn't at 2,200; it's at 23,000 today. So to all those people that panicked and got out, I feel sorry.
Right, and let me add, I just saw something on the Liberty Daily. If you are looking at the Liberty Daily, you probably saw it too, that ABC and CBS haven't even...
Oh,
sorry.
Who is that?
Number I don't recognize.
Okay,
ABC and
they'll have to wait then.
ABC, if it was a kid, we'd be answering, or a family member. ABC and CBS haven't even covered that the market is up to 23,000. With Obama, every single time there was a slight increase. They had to talk about it, but then, of course, they didn't talk about his minimal GDP growth. But NBC covered it briefly, but ABC and CBS have chosen to ignore these market gains under President Trump.
Of course. Okay, speaking of media bias, leftist media bias, or what Andrew Breitbart, the late great Andrew Breitbart, coined the term Democrat media complex.
So apropos.
And that's exactly what it is. So the media has a blackout on what is the biggest political scandal, the biggest scam in political history, in terms of dollars and in terms of potential harm done. Treasonous activities. Whereas the Russians gave over $140 million to the Clinton Foundation. And
$140 million.
Yeah, I think it was $143 million. Now, unless you just fell out of the turnip truck, you will know that when countries or companies give that kind of money to someone who has political ties,
Yep.
they didn't give it to the Red Cross, okay? They're not giving it to, World Concern or another charity. They're giving it to the Clinton Crime Family Foundation. So what did they want in return?
Right, because, the Clintons don't do anything for free.
We used to ask what they wanted in return.
Pay to play.
But now we know what they wanted in return. 20% of the nation's uranium. And there's an FBI informant. This was just broken, I think, 2 days ago by John Solomon at thehill.com, who has been gagged by the Obama regime.
Since what year, sweetheart?
Huh?
For how long?
Since 2010, I believe.
2010.
Because he was a businessman that was also an FBI informant. He came to the FBI and he exposed the chicanery going on. The Obama Justice Department under corrupt Eric Holder swept it completely under the rug because it involved the Clintons.
Yep.
And we have the biggest political scandal of all time. The media is putting themselves into pretzels, trying to avoid covering this story. But old Wolf Blitzer.
Wolf Schlitzer.
Old Wolf. Wolf Blitzer of the Clinton News Network.
Yes, fake news provocateurs.
Yes.
Of course.
He gave the scandal, the real Russian scandal.
Real Russian scandal.
Getting this here from conservativereview.com.
With major proof behind it, not just hearsay speculation and what I feel.
Right. Here's his coverage of it. And I should preface this with Trump was bashing the media earlier. I'm not going to play that for sake of time. But he was correctly this time bashing the media for not covering this story. So rather than Wolf Blitzer actually covering the story and digging into it, all he does is he quotes on what Trump said about the scandal.
So that they could say, we covered it.
We covered it,
see? They had people on there accusing
He
them
covers it for exactly 10 seconds.
10 seconds, people.
Russia, that the whole Russia collusion story, once again, he says, is a hoax. The big story is the uranium that was purchased, that was obtained by the Russians during the Obama administration. He says that's one of the big stories, one of the worst stories of the past decade.
And that's it.
That's it.
That's it. They're trying to make people, because CNN has spent so much time bashing Trump, they ignore big, real, legitimate stories so they could convene panel after panel about this, Trump-Russia story that has absolutely no teeth to it whatsoever. After a year of investigation, they still push that propaganda as if it's truth. They still push speculation
no proof.
As if it's fact. So I would speculate that Wolf Blitzer is just quoting Trump so that they can make people believe, this is just sour grapes.
We covered it. Yeah, that's what they're doing.
It's not
well,
really
it's
real.
just Trump saying it. You know how he goes on about things. And you know what? Trump said it was the biggest story in a decade. This is a time where Trump is understating it. He normally traffics pretty good in hyperbole. But how is this not 145 million times bigger than Watergate?
It definitely is. It's proof positive. It's proof positive that Andrew Breitbart was right. These media outlets are in the tank for Democrats. They provide cover. We've seen evidence of them colluding with Democrats on messaging. They are an arm of the Democrat Party. They do the Democrat
propaganda
Party
arm
bidding. And as Micah Brzezinski from The Morning Joe, remember her with her legs kicked up high in the air, with her skirt hiked up, sitting next to Joe. I don't know if they were dating or if they were married to other people at the time,
or
but
both.
They're engaged, or both. But talk about women. I mean, that picture was incredibly risque, but I digress. As she said, she believes that it is their job to tell people what to think, not to provide information and let people form their own opinion. It is the job of the Democrat media complex, according to Morning Joe's Micah Brzezinski, Mrs. Joe, what's his name? Scarborough, to tell people what to think.
Right. Okay. I don't even like talking about this because it's a sideshow. Again, stay focused, people. The biggest story in America right now is this Hillary-Russia Uranium collusion, corruption, blackmail, racketeering story. The sideshow, the shiny little object, the sideshow was created by this communist Florida representative, anti-American
Texas
type.
culture appropriator.
She has appropriated the cowboy Texas culture by wearing cowboy hats, and she's politicized the death of a soldier to score cheap political points, and it's utterly shameful. Now, John Kelly spanked her hard today, and it was a beautiful thing, referring to her as an empty barrel. Now, he actually speaks from a place of credibility, not because he's in the Trump administration, but because he's a military general and actually sacrificed his son for the country.
Right.
His son died.
Right. I thought we weren't supposed to attack Gold Star families.
Oh, no, that's all gone
Isn't
now.
that what the Democrats said? They trotted out the Gold Star
Right.
father and everything and attacked Trump.
And he talks about that, and he talks about how, he doesn't specifically say the left, but it is the left that's politicizing everything. They're trashing everything. Because they're out to destroy the country.
He called 4 people.
So he's talking about President Trump.
The other day and expressed his condolences in the best way that he could. And he said to me, "What do I say?" I said to him, "Sir, there's nothing you can do to lighten the burden on these families. But let me tell you what I tell them. And let me tell you what my best friend, Joe Dunford, told me."
He's very emotional here. And it's in the White House briefing room. This is a press conference today, and so the reporters are there, and they're having to take this. It's a great thing.
He's my casualty officer. He said, "Kel, he was doing exactly what he wanted to do when he was killed. He knew what he was getting into."
So this is what General Kelly got told when his son died. This is a message that he was given by whoever the officer responsible for delivering that message.
It is absolutely
but yet
true.
this Frederica Wilson is bashing Trump for saying the exact same thing.
And here's what they're trying to. They're trying to.
We'll get back to this.
Tonality, like they're trying to make it sound like Trump was off the cuff. I knew what he was getting into, but
that's
still
fake.
bad. That's what they want people to see, think, believe of how it happened. But it is true. When someone goes into the Army, when someone becomes a firefighter, when someone becomes a police officer, they don't know when they go out if they're coming back home.
Right, they know.
That's
they
true.
know
They
that.
know they're putting themselves in harm's way,
and
they're doing it because they want to.
Trump is a lot of things, but you gotta really stretch it to say that he doesn't respect the military.
Right.
And the sacrifice they meet. I mean, his administration is chock full of generals.
Right.
And
the left bashed him for selecting.
And the
so
left
many generals.
Hates the military. They've
bashed
always
him
hated
for
the
selecting
military.
so many generals, as if that was a bad thing.
So to act like she cares about the military is just really, really a stretch.
By joining that 1%, he knew what the possibilities were because we're at war. And when he died, in the 4 cases we're talking about, in Niger, my son's case in Afghanistan, when he died, he was surrounded by the best men on this earth, his friends. That's what the president tried to say to 4 families the other day.
So good for Trump. Trump doesn't seem to me to be one who typically ask for advice, right?
Right.
I mean, he just goes out there and shoots and says whatever comes to his head, which can be good and bad, as we've seen. But he actually asked Kelly, hey, this is really difficult conversation. If you were in my shoes, given what you've been through, what would you say? And then he told him what to say. And it's Frederica Wilson, the cultural appropriator wearing the Texas cowboy hats, she somehow thinks that's wrong.
Right.
Where does she get off?
Not only does she think it's wrong, but, as we alluded to earlier, she went on to attack General Kelly, who not only himself put himself in harm's way for decades. I mean, you don't become a general for doing nothing. But who lost a son. He's a Gold Star father, and she attacked him as well.
Yeah, you can pull up what she said. It's on the Liberty Daily if you want, hon, while I'm playing the rest of this here.
I was stunned when I came to work yesterday morning and brokenhearted at what I saw a member of Congress doing. A member of Congress who listened in on a phone call from the President of the United States to a young wife, and in his way tried to express that opinion. He's a brave man, a fallen hero. He knew what he was getting himself into because he enlisted. There's no reason to enlist. He enlisted. And he was where he wanted to be, exactly where he wanted to be, with exactly the people he wanted to be with when his life was taken. That was the message. That was the message that was transmitted. It stuns me that a member of Congress would have listened in on that conversation. Absolutely stuns me. And I thought, at least that was sacred. Life, the dignity of life, was sacred. That's gone. Religion, that seems to be gone as well. Gold Star
Well, not Islam.
Right.
The left is okay with that because, you know, Islam is at war with Christianity, which to them is their enemy.
Right.
Families, I think that left in the convention over the summer. But I just thought the selfless devotion that brings a man or woman to die on the battlefield, I just thought that might be sacred. I still hope, as you write your stories, and I appeal to America, that let's not let this maybe last thing that's held sacred in our society. A young man, young woman going out and giving his or her life for our country. Let's try to somehow keep that sacred. But it eroded a great deal yesterday by the selfish behavior.
So yeah, selfish behavior, and he goes on to call her an empty barrel, which is, I believe, the same as calling her an airhead, is it not?
Yes. And here was Frederica, the cultural appropriator. Here was her flippant, quick response, according to a political writer. John Kelly's trying to keep his job. He will say anything. There are other people who heard what I heard.
Now, is that her or Maxine Waters? Because that sounded a little bit like anti-Maxine.
Yes, I was thinking, hey, she's trying to be the Maxine of the East Coast.
Right, and we know that to be true because, guess what happened today? She was caught on video yucking it up, laughing that the left is now considering her to be a, quote, rock star. And boy, is she proud of that. Old Maxine Waters, old Aunt Esther.
Auntie Maxine, you're not my aunt.
Has got some competition. Listen to this.
House. You mean to tell me that I have become so important?
I'm so important.
Are we watching Hee Haw?
Well, she's dressed like Hee Haw.
The White House is following me and my word. This is amazing.
Oh my goodness.
The word is following, not following.
The White House is following?
The White House is following me?
Good golly gee whiz.
This is amazing. No, what's amazing is that the people in your district would laser race baiting ASS.
Good Lord.
That's amazing. That is absolutely phenomenal. I'll have to tell my kids that I'm a rock star now.
She deemed herself to be a rock star.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, how narcissistic of you.
Yeah. But Trump's the narcissist. He does have some narcissistic qualities, I'm not going to lie. But to say that the rest of these yokels are not narcissists,
Lady,
too, is
why
just
don't you
not...
retire, go home and spend some time with your grandchildren?
She doesn't give a crap about them. They're in Florida or wherever they are. She's in D.C. She's off to the races, obviously. All right. You, my dear, I think had a couple of stories from our old stomping grounds.
Yes.
That you were going to cover, the People's Republic of Seattle.
Oh, the People's Republic of Seattle. I mean, there's so much you could say about them. I mean, what good can come out of a city that has a statue of Lenin prominent?
Vladimir Lenin, communist butcher.
Lenin, in a prominent area of town.
Well, I don't think we have to say anything except just these stories, which
right,
totally...
I'm just saying.
You're right.
I just want to add that. Okay, so... Seattle has been very anti-business, I mean, for a very long time. I remember a friend of mine contacted me. She had a friend who owned a pizza joint in Seattle. Her friend was a liberal, and when they pushed the whole increase in minimum wage thing, her friend was just an independently owned shop. She couldn't pay those prices. I mean, she couldn't. She ended up shutting down her pizza business. So here's a story from Cairo, which is one of the conservative... It's Cairo Radio. Is it Cairo Radio?
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, here's a story from Cairo Radio in Seattle. A business in Seattle who has been at their location since the 1940s, owner Mike Benezra, said he is shutting down his business because, among many other things, the city's failure to deal with their big homeless issue.
Correction. The city's encouraging their homeless problem.
Well,
creating it.
Okay,
they created it.
Right, creating the homeless problem.
By creating
and
a magnet.
Things like letting the homeless pee on the street and letting the homeless, shoot up in these
free heroin.
Yeah, taxpayer-funded safe spots for free heroin. One of the things this man is having a problem with is homeless people crapping in his parking lot. He said they're having an issue with they'll climb fences to go into locked areas and rummage through the trash. They found dirty needles in his parking lot. The homeless people crap in his parking lot. And
can you imagine that? It's like a freaking zoo. Worse than animals.
Imagine? I mean, imagine when Seattle is going through a heat wave, the stench of that, or the rain in Seattle, and what happens to that. It's just disgusting. And he said the tone and the tenure is of the Seattle officials amounts to poor treatment of businesses. He said he's witnessed the homeless issue get worse around his business, and as a result, his business is Buffalo Industries. He is leaving the city. He's going to relocate his business because his business is suffering because of this problem. Some woman, sorry, I'm reading a little bit more, has conducted, it's so bad, has conducted classes with businesses in the Sodo area of Seattle, teaching them how to dispose of...
How to shovel poop, human waste.
How to dispose of the dirty needles they find in their parking lot because this is such a problem. People's Republic of Seattle. Folks.
Progressive liberalism.
This is interesting.
On full display.
Seattle is they do a lot of cruises out of Seattle, cruises to Alaska mostly, and this is one thing the man said. They are picking on the wrong people. I just wonder about what people who are coming here to go on cruises think. When they come in town and see all the encampments off the side of the freeway, are they going to want to continue to travel here when they have to go through a lot of waste and aggressive panhandling all over the country? People can make choices about where they want to travel as well. We're spending a lot of money on a new convention center. How likely are we to continue to have those conventions when our city, frankly, looks like a garbage dump?
And smells like one, too. Okay, so there is Seattle, People's Republic of Seattle. And now we have a case you were going to talk about some... Or did you have another Seattle story?
No, this one wasn't Seattle. That was
but it very well could have been.
Very well could have been. Yeah, this is a series in our culture rot update.
Hashtag thanks Obama.
Right. So under Barack Obama, we've seen a rise in racial unrest. In all my years, I have never witnessed such hatred and animosity of black people towards white people. I mean, to the point where black youth thought it was okay for them to play a knockout game with elderly white people and pregnant white women and cold clock them, rendering them unconscious on the street, knowing, because Eric Holder said this, knowing that Eric Holder was not going to prosecute it as a hate crime because he said white people aren't historically oppressed, so it's not a hate crime.
Speaking of Obama,
they were targeted as such.
Let me just play this real quick. This is going to dovetail perfectly with what you have. This is the most divisive president of all time, Barack Obama, today talking about, drumroll, thank you, divisiveness.
But what we can't have is the same old politics of division.
You invented the politics of division. Did you hear that?
I did.
That we have seen so many times before.
You're not a Baptist preacher, dude.
Let's see. You divided people by sex, by race, by economic status.
You attacked those you deemed your political enemies.
Right. Both. By cop versus non-cop.
Right.
You tried to divide people against America's police.
You sicked government agencies on those who disagreed with you.
There has never been anybody
clinging to their guns
and no, not Donald Trump, who said we're all Americans, but let's try to secure our borders. That's not divisive, okay? This SOB is divisive.
It's back centuries. Some of the politics we see now, we thought we put that to bed.
Are you serious right now?
Yeah, so did we, till you came along.
Yeah, I thought we put to bed, this racial unrest until your sorry you-know-what got into office with your George Jefferson walking self.
What did Steve Urkel used to say? Did I do that? Yeah, you built that.
I mean, that's looking 50 years back.
Oh my God. And the SEALs clap. You don't even realize these black people who fared as a community, black people fared worse economically under Obama, but they'll still want to chant, Obama!
Oh, guess how he was greeted?
Obama!
Guess how he was greeted? 4 more years. 4 more.
That's why I said if Michelle Obama ran, idiot black people would elect her. And I
can they would. If she runs, they will.
I'm not an idiot black person. I'm a black person with an actual brain who sees through the Obamas and live behind a big brick wall in their mansion.
Yeah, their border wall.
Up buddy, Valerie Jarrett.
It's the 21st century. Not the 19th century.
Yeah, when we had all those racist Democrats. Come on! So he's out on the campaign trail again for some gubernatorial candidate, Democrat in New Jersey, Phil Murphy, who I'm sure is a commie pinko, just like he is. All right, so
hold on, we didn't say this.
Yeah.
So this is the manifestation. This is what evolved from Obama's 9 years or 8 years in office. This is what we've gotten. A black man attacked a disabled, homeless white man on a bus in Washington, D.C., yelling at the man that you owe me for making my grandmother a slave.
He does? How did he do that?
Yeah. Does he know his grandmother? And I have news for you, buddy. When your grandmother was alive, there was not slavery anymore.
I mean, even if she was born in the 1920s, and she's 90-some years old,
right?
There was no slavery. There was no slavery.
There was no slavery. So
I mean, maybe on the Democrat plantation,
they said that,
but we can't help that.
The victim tried to remain calm and ignore. The man was racially motivated in his comments. He approached the guy, started rummaging.
Who triggered
pockets.
Him? Oh, Obama.
Bystanders tried to intervene, and he charged at various passengers, spit in the disabled man's face, threatened to douse him with a cup full of urine.
Who runs around with a cup full of urine?
Exactly. And when the bus driver threatened to call the police, the man jumped off the bus, grabbing and tearing off a side view mirror before fleeing the scene. Now, some guy said, a black man who came to age during the American Civil Rights Union, called the disabled man a sign of the times. It speaks to the state of the times.
Oh, yeah.
People are desperate. They're looking for leadership. They're looking for guidance. They're not getting at home.
Like you had under Obama?
It's a period of time I've never seen before. No.
Yeah, we did see it in the 60s.
This is the manifestation of Barack Obama. This is what Barack Obama wanted.
That's his legacy.
This is his legacy. This is why they did that. You know, the hat tips, barely saying anything. You know, going in and saying a few words after Black Lives Matter would wreak their havoc on different places, encouraged Occupy Wall Street. This is what he wants.
Right.
He's an anti-colonialist America hater, and this is his legacy. This type of thing. This isn't the first time we've seen a black person attack a white person with racially charged words. You won't hear about it in the mainstream media, though. You won't hear about it in the Democrat media complex. They won't talk about that.
Let me ask you a question. Is that racist or not?
The attack?
Yeah.
Of course it is.
Why aren't the media calling him, a black supremacist or a black racist?
I guarantee you, if a white man would have walked up to a disabled black man
that'd be
and
on
hit him
CNN.
on the back with a belt and said, "Your name is Kunta Kinte,"
yeah,
it would have been all over the news.
You'd have
CNN
panels on CNN for 6 weeks. And like we talked about with this, just to double back to this, they had panels going on for a year now on this Trump-Russia nonsense. And here...
I think...
$143 million to crooked Hillary so that she could then give the Russians 20% of America's uranium, which is used for nuclear bombs.
And remember, when the uranium thing was brought up, the Democrats responded, "Well, that was a long time ago."
Right.
Yeah. What has the Russians done with that in all this time?
Or his executive.
Right. Okay, you have a case of judicial tyranny, do you not,
right.
My dear?
Judicial tyranny. Fourth Circuit Court of Appeals.
Fourth Circus ruled that a cross-shaped... Stupid ad. Hold on. 90-year-old Veterans Memorial.
A 90-year-old Veterans Memorial, cross-shaped at Bladensburg World War I Veterans Memorial. This Fourth Circus Court of Appeals said it is unconstitutional and must come down. This, once again, manifestation of what Obama got the ball rolling on, a war against Christians and Christianity. 3-panel judge ruled 2-1 in favor of the American Humanist Association, a.k.a. the Satanists, the God haters, that the cross-shaped monument violates the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. The Latin cross is the core symbol of Christianity.
Suddenly,
after
90 years later.
90 years, they have to take it down. But, of course, First Liberty is considering an appeal, as well they should. The American Legion's commitment to preserving the Bladensburg Memorial has been unwavering. Their determination is appropriately illustrated by President Woodrow Wilson's words engraved on the memorial's base. The right is more precious than the peace. We shall fight for the things we have always carried nearest to our hearts. To such a task, we dedicate ourselves. We're exploring, and they said they're exploring all their options, and they should fight it. The war on Christianity by the activist, leftist judges on the courts needs to be stopped. And need to stand up to these God-hating bullies.
Yes, the Antichrist. Okay, speaking of Seattle, I thought this is what you're going to talk about. There is a Seattle City Council member that wants to toll drivers who are avoiding tolls. So now, they recently, in the Puget Sound area, started putting in these toll roads, just like the East Side does. The East Coast does.
Right.
Just like you see all the time in New York and New Jersey, these roads and bridges that have been paid for 50 years, and they're still socking the taxpayers to pay for something that's been paid for decades. But Seattle's doing that. Seattle area is doing that too, except The problem is people are avoiding the polls. I mean, the toll roads, which, of course, is common sense.
Right.
Right?
They have been for years, ever since they initiated those tolls.
And the city council member Mike O'Brien told Cairo Channel 7 up there, to maintain the bus service, what we need to do is make sure that there aren't more cars on the streets downtown. See, ultimately, this is the goal of a communist. They want you riding around in little bicycles, like Pee Wee Herman, like they do in communist China. That is the goal of the one worlders, the communists. And that's what he is. He says folks that are on 99, they're talking about Highway 99, that are going to try to divert to get out of the tunnel because that they don't want to pay that toll. Do we have some sort of toll that says you are going to pay a toll one way or another? So if you are going to use the tunnel, just use it? So that's what they want to do. If you use the toll road,
take away your choice.
They want your money. If you don't use the toll road, they want to take your money.
They are anti-choice when it comes to toll roads.
And Dory Monson, we talked about this a couple of weeks ago on the Burke Brigade. He found a memo that had been going around the Washington State Department of Transportation that said their goal was to toll every road
in the state, not
in the
just
state,
in King County, every road, even little county roads in the state.
So we know King County is a hellhole. They have gone far off, left off the deep end. But the problem is, if they would just sit there and rot in hell, it would be okay. But the problem is, they want, like locusts, like Levin always talks about, they want to poison the rest of the state and take the money of the rest of the state. All these farmers in eastern Washington.
Who are overall conservative.
Right. The rest of the state's very, very conservative. And they want their money to fund their little communist hellhole.
Shameful.
Utterly shameful. How far are we in here? We are in here exactly 37 minutes and 27 seconds. Is there anything else for the good of the order here?
I don't think so, sweetie.
Really? You want to wrap up? Okay.
Let's wrap it up.
Well, we'll wrap it up. There's a lot of other good stories today. There's Lou Holtz, legendary college coach. This is on thelibertydaily.com. You can see it there on the anti-American NFL flag sitter saying, when you kneel, you're saying, I'm against the flag. Quote. So it doesn't matter what you think you're doing when you protest during the national anthem. That's the way it's going to come across, you idiots.
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much for tuning into the Burke Brigade. Brought to you by The Liberty Daily.
Your conservative alternative to the Drudge Report.
Go to thelibertydaily.com, thelibertydaily.com. I'm Matthew Burke.
And I'm Jennifer Burke.
And we are the Burke Brigade. God bless you guys.
God bless America.